Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the global economy to show you the hidden and, honestly, pretty bizarre rules that dictate how our world really works.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. Why would America just throw away brand new shipping containers from China? And how can the world's biggest oil producer also be a top importer? And maybe the craziest one, how does a sanctioned nation get its hands on a whole fleet of American jets? Now, these aren't just hypotheticals, they're real-world mysteries. And by solving them, we're going to uncover the absolutely bizarre logic of our global economy.
All right, first up, the container graveyard. Let's solve this puzzle of why millions of perfectly good shipping containers basically just end up as scrap metal in the United States.
So this whole story really begins out on the ocean. Take a look at this. A staggering 90% of pretty much everything we trade travels by ship. It's literally the backbone of the entire global economy.
And just try to wrap your head around that scale. At any given minute, right now, there are somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 of these massive container ships crisscrossing the globe. It's like a constant, moving city of pure commerce.
And guess where the vast majority of these ships are coming from? Yep, one country, China. It's the absolute center of modern manufacturing. These ships are loaded with our clothes, our phones, you name it, and they all start their journey from a Chinese port.
Now, to really get the problem here, you have to understand this massive imbalance. In 2023 alone, China's trade surplus was over $823 billion. That means it exports just a tidal wave of goods that is way, way bigger than what it imports.
So what you get is this huge one-way street of stuff, especially flowing to the United States, the world's biggest consumer. An endless stream of containers arrives completely full, but, well, there's just not enough American stuff to send back in them.
So what happens to all those millions of empty containers that land in the U.S.? Logically, you'd think, well, just send them back to China to be refilled. That's the common sense answer, right? But yeah, that's not what happens. Not at all. And this right here solves the entire mystery. It all comes down to simple economics. Look at these numbers. It's about $1,000 cheaper for a company in China to build a brand new steel box than it is to pay to ship an empty one all the way back across the Pacific. Think about that.
And the result? Millions of used containers are just abandoned in American junkyards. So the crucial point here is that this waste, it's a direct physical symptom of this huge global trade imbalance. It's a mountain of steel left to rust because of a simple, weird quirk in shipping costs.
Okay, so that's the container mystery. Now let's move to our next one, which feels just as counterintuitive, if not more so. We're talking about America's really strange relationship with its own oil. Get this, the U.S. is the world's #1 oil producer, but it's also the #2 oil importer. On the surface, that makes absolutely no sense. It's like a farmer who grows the most wheat but then has to go buy bread from his neighbors. So why? What is going on?
Well, the answer isn't just one thing. It really comes down to 3 key reasons that, when you put them together, show you how this messy mix of chemistry, logistics, and old laws can create some truly weird economic situations.
Okay, first up, it's basically the wrong kind of oil. You see, most U.S. oil is what they call light crude, but the refineries in the U.S., they were built decades ago to handle heavy crude from places like Venezuela, and upgrading all of them would cost over $200 billion. So it's actually cheaper to just sell the light stuff to other countries and import the heavy stuff their machines are already built for. Second, it's a total logistics nightmare. There just aren't any major pipelines connecting the big oil fields in, say, Texas to the refineries on the East Coast. And it gets even crazier. California has basically become an oil island. It has to import 70% of its oil, not because America doesn't have enough, but because it's just too hard to get it piped in efficiently from other states. But the final nail in the coffin, the real kicker, is a century-old law called the Jones Act. Now, this law requires that all goods shipped between U.S. ports have to use ships that are U.S.-built, U.S.-owned, and U.S.-crewed. It was meant to protect American shipping after World War I.
But here's the unintended consequence. A law that was designed to protect America is now kind of eating it from the inside. See, U.S. ships are about 3 times more expensive to build and operate. So it's actually cheaper for a refinery in New York to buy oil from halfway around the world than it is to ship it from Texas on an American boat. Just wow.
Okay, let's move to our final mystery.
This is where we see how these complex rules don't just create weird situations, they can be exploited. And we're talking about the high-stakes world of geopolitics.
So how in the world did sanctioned Iran secretly get its hands on 5 American-made Boeing 777 passenger jets? I mean, this story plays out like a legit heist movie. Iran is under heavy sanctions, right? They shouldn't be able to buy a single bolt from a US company, let alone a whole fleet of jets. But they did, using a web of shell companies and loopholes to move these massive assets across the globe, totally under the radar.
Just look at this journey. It's a multi-year, multi-country shell game. It starts in Australia, where old jets are bought by a US front company. Then they're moved to China. Then they're re-registered in Madagascar under a shell company to get away from FAO oversight. From there, they kind of go dark in Cambodia, where aviation rules are pretty lax. The final move? They turn off their transponders over weekly monitored airspace in Afghanistan, and then, poof, they just reappear, landing in Iran.
And here's the kicker. Even though the planes were totally acquired illegally, there's this piece of international law, the Chicago Convention, that basically says no country can deny a civilian aircraft from using its airspace or landing unless they're at war. So the US is pretty much powerless to stop them. It's a built-in free pass.
So, when you look at all 3 of these stories, the abandoned containers, the weird oil trade, the smuggled jets, you realize they're not just random, quirky things. They're all symptoms of the same underlying issue. They are all these unintended consequences of a global system built on really complex, invisible, and often contradictory rules. It's like our world runs on a hidden operating system, a mix of economic incentives, logistical facts, and old laws that all crash into each other and create these bizarre outcomes.
So, what other hidden rules are shaping your world? I mean, think about it. The price of your coffee, the parts in your phone, they're all being guided by this invisible logic. It really makes you wonder, right? What other hidden rules are out there, shaping everything around us? Thanks for watching.